the stream for Higurashi no Naku Koroni Tsumihoroboshi. Hopefully it'll be better chapters. Sorry, because like I don't always love all the parts of the chapter within the chapters, but when I do, I really do. I don't know how that made any sense when I was saying that. But anyway, let's begin. 光なの忘れれないざないる闇とともにヒハララヒハララヒハララヒハララものはヒハララヒハララすべての日へてく I should apologize, Rena. I don't think I believed you. I'm really sorry about that. It's okay, Keiichi. I'm just glad we didn't get caught. Who are they? Are they pawns of those religious fanatics who are trying to revive the cult of Oyashiro? I think they don't realize that they're pawns, but I'm sure the masterminds are using them as such. They must be the ones who have been pulling strings behind the scenes ever since the dam conflict. I heard that people working for the Sonozaki family did something similar during the dam conflict itself. Yes, everyone knows that. Oishi told me that. There was a kidnapping incident during the dam conflict. This case hasn't been disclosed to the public, but anyway, someone kidnapped... Okay, yeah. For some reason, I'm craving fruit wrap stuff, like the candy. I've never heard about that before. The minister submitted to their demands and they made a deal behind the scenes. That's why the incident never went public. Okay, the reason why I was talking over it is because I already read it. I mean, as in, like, we know this. This is old information. Sorry. According to Oishi, between the kidnapping the minister's grandson and the blackmailing him, their tactics were frighteningly advanced. The police know the Sonozaki family gave orders to the kidnappers, but the case still remains unsolved. At the time, the head of the Sonozaki family, Oryo, had announced a plan to fight against the dam project by force. She even formed a special attack corps using the Yakuza group that's under the Sonozaki family's command. She was very serious about this plan to put the Ministry of Construction down by brute force if she couldn't stop the construction. Everybody knows the Sonozaki family had tried to stop the dam project, even if it meant breaking the law, so I wasn't surprised to hear that she had a dangerous plan like that. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Mion who came up with the idea. The plan sounded just like her. In the end, the plan ended up as nothing more than that, but the Special Attack Corps actually did undergo training, and very high-level training at that. Oishi had uncovered the information right after the dam conflict ended. At the time, Oryo even said the village was going to be submerged. All the members of the Orifuchi Gardens would choose to stay in their houses and drown. So because Oryo was behind those things, I couldn't just laugh off the idea of the armed assault on the Ministry of Construction. According to the information Oishi sees, she planned the mission as a last resort when the dam conflict started to heat up. A last resort is something as a last resort, and their resistance wasn't successful. She had actually obtained weapons and put people through training for the sake of that plan. The Special Attack Corps were flown to America, having received a huge amount of money from Oryo for the operation. In the southern desert of the United States, some retired military soldiers give them highly professional training. While the plan was never carried out, the Special Attack Corps became a death squad under the direct control of Oryo after they came back from America, and they were involved in many unsolved terrorist incidents, and they would succeed in kidnapping the grandson of the minister as well. It sounds like it's from a movie or something. Do you remember how Michan said that she could do anything from flying helicopters to using wireless radios? It's actually all true. It seems like Michan joined in their training. So that was all true? Well, let's just put that aside for now. Anyway, you have to at least believe the death squad actually exists in Hinamizawa, and they're capable of kidnapping the grandson of a government minister. I didn't take a close look at the four men in the white van today, but thinking about it, they did look professional in a way. They pretended just to be taking a break, but I could tell they were tense the whole time. So, are they really trying to kill you? I don't think so. If they really wanted to kill me, I'd be dead already. So, what do they want? Are they after talking with scrapbooks? Like you saw yourself, the group is very cautious. Unless we show them an opening, they won't resort to violence. If they were the type to use force outright, they could have attacked me in my sleep. They haven't done that yet, so that must mean they're taking it cautiously. They're probably not sure I have the scrapbooks. They killed Mio and tried to dispose of them, but they found out the most important ones were missing. They thought she gave them to someone because she knew her life was in danger, and now they think I'm the one who has them. But they're not sure, so they can't resort to violence. Rena, it sounds like you're playing a dangerous game. Yeah, I'm a bit scared, but they won't be able to erase me so easily. After all, I'm cooperating with Oishi. I I've been frequently contacting him in case something happens.
What did he say about them?
He said he'd keep an eye on the Sonozaki family so that he would catch them right away if they were working behind the scenes.
Did you tell him about the scrapbooks?
No, I didn't.
I think you should. He's an officer. I'm sure the police will help you.
Keiichi, I can't even tell you the secret of this village because I'm not sure you would believe me. I don't think Oishi would believe me if I told him any of this.
Rena, let's not make it any more confusing than it already is. Just tell me, what is it? What's written in the scrapbooks? What's the secret that killed Mio?
Simply put, if the things written in the scrapbooks are true, the god they worship will be dethroned.
Their god? Dethroned?
Yes. The sanctity of Oyashiro will be lost. That's why they want to conceal the truth. They want to resurrect people's belief in Oyashiro.
Rena, can you explain it a little more simply than that? I'm confused.
In other words, Oyashiro isn't a god.
He isn't? I had no idea what she read that made her so certain. But whatever it was sacrilegious for people who believe so strongly in Oyashiro.
There are many teachings of Oyashiro, but the essence is as follows. Don't leave the village, and don't let anybody into the village. One could even say the rest of his teachings were developed to maintain those two fundamentals. It really wasn't until later on that they added aspects like love your neighbor or viewing him as a god of marriage and domestic prosperity. In other words, Oyashiro existed solely to stop the villagers from going outside the village. Oyashiro doesn't bless the villagers or protect them from disasters. The people that believe that Oyashiro does all that for them, but the truth is the people have used his name for the purpose generation after generation, and nothing more than that. Why did Oyashiro descend in the first place? Because demons came out of the Onigafuchi swamp and attacked people. In fact, that was the wrong interpretations. Demons didn't come out of the swamp and attack people. People became demons and attacked others when they were possessed by whatever came out of the swamp.
Whatever came out of the swamp? What do you mean by that?
Whatever came out of the swamp possessed people, crawled into their blood and controlled them, and turned them into demons. People had no resistance against whatever it was that came out of the swamp. They became demons, attacked the other villagers, and turned them into demons as well.
That's right. It was a weird infectious disease that broke out from the swamp.
It made the infected people go out of control. The villagers saw this disaster and explained it like so. Evil demons came out of the bottom of the swamp, possessed people, and turned them into demons as well. That is the truth of the story of the demons that came out of Onigafuchi swamp. It actually explains the legend. So was Oyashiro a doctor who came from a foreign country? Yes, that's not exactly correct, but he was something like that. He came to Onigafuchi and he was treated the infectious disease, but he couldn't cure it for good.
All his treatment could do was reduce the symptoms of the infection. Villagers could have their symptoms suppressed, but there was no way to kill the parasites that had infested them.
After a while, the village was divided into two groups. One group was made of people who were already infected. The other consisted of the people who weren't. Without a cure for the disease, the uninfected looked down on the people who could only suppress their violent symptoms. They even talked about drowning them in the swamp, but they knew killing the infected people wouldn't solve the problem. The parasites that came out of their water sources included Onigafuchi swamp. They couldn't fill them all in, for if they did that, they would lose their access to drinking water. They could have chose to leave the village, but it was hard for them, for the location of their ancestors' graves. Under the power of Oyashiro, infected people could live without showing symptoms. So both of those who were infected and those who weren't decided to live together equally and to coexist with the parasite. Oyashiro was impressed by the villagers' decisions. He decided to stay there and continue to treat them. That's the true identity of Oyashiro, the benefactor who stayed in the village to protect the lives of both human and demon. That's right, and Oyashiro made rules in order to ensure the symptoms of the infected people will remain suppressed. The rules were to never leave the village and to never let anybody leave the village. I understand why he didn't want to let anybody new into the village. It was to prevent the parasite from infecting anybody else, but I don't understand why he didn't want people to leave. It seems like the parasite can only live in Hinamizawa because of the climate here. It causes an outbreak of the symptoms in order to prevent the host from leaving the village when they try. That reaction is the truth behind the curse of Oyashiro. The strongest symptoms of the infectious disease was violence and delirium. The infected people acted just like demons, and the impact of seeing them in the throes of the disease was strong enough to make the others describe them as such. They couldn't even let people leave who had just come to the village. If they had left after being infected, they might go crazy in a faraway land and turn into a vicious demon and cause a disaster. Infected people were never allowed to leave.
When an infected person left the village, they brought him back by any means necessary. That is what it really meant to be demoned away. Oh, hey! Violence and delirium. I wonder what that sounds like in the previous stories. Wait a second, Rena. That means everybody in this village, including you and I, are infected. But nothing happens when we leave Hinamizawa. In fact, many villagers move far away after getting married or something. I've never heard of any of the villagers who went crazy and turned to demons after they left Hinamizawa.
You're right. That's because things went as Oyashiro thought they would. Do you understand? He isolated the village for a long time in order to weaken the power of the parasite. Hosts are very important for parasites. If something happens to the host, the parasite that lives in the host have to share the same fate. In other words, if the host went crazy and attacked people, the host would be captured and killed, which means the parasites would die with the host too.
I see. You're talking about natural selection.
Good thinking, Keiichi. That's exactly right. As a result of living in this village under the strict rules for such a long time, people who were hypersensitive to the parasite went crazy and got killed. The strong parasites that made the infected people go crazy were also killed off due to the host's violent behaviors. As a result, only the parasites that acted nice to people lived on. And that's the explanation between the mix of human and demon blood that's written in the legend of Oyashiro.
So, that means the parasite is almost harmless now.
Yes. According to Mio's scrapbooks, there are actually many people who are infected by harmless parasites. It depends on the local food culture. For example, about 80% of the people who live in a country where meat is a staple food are infected by parasites. But because the parasites coexist with humans without doing any harm to them, nobody notices them, treats them, or tries to get rid of them.
I see.
In olden times, Watanagashi was called Harawatanagashi. Harawata means guts. It said people back then used to eat the guts of infected people who went crazy. It sounds awful, but it was something they had to do.
I feel like that sounds like something with the gut or stomach. Eating the infected people. Are you talking about a vaccine?
You're very smart, Keiichi. Mio also interpreted it just like you did. In the legend, it says people cut open and ate the infected ones alive, but it actually wasn't anything gross like that. They did it in a scientific way. They created a vaccine from the infected people who died from the extremely strong parasites that helped the uninfected villagers boost their immune system.
Who was Oyashiro? A scientist? He must have been from a very advanced country. Was he German? Is it true that he was Oyashiro, a foreign doctor who survived a shipwreck?
I think that would most likely be the answer. He wasn't German, but he was a doctor of some sort.
It's kind of interesting to reveal the truth behind old legends. I don't think that Rena's story is too crazy to be true anymore. It still sounds crazy, of course, but I've never heard of any theories that explain the legend of this village better than this one. I'm infected by the parasite too, right? I feel itchy all over now.
A person is like a universe. We have countless numbers of bacteria in our bodies. Some of those bacteria are essential to us staying alive.
Oh, like bacteria in yogurt, right?
I see. This is also what Mio wrote in her scrapbooks. You know termites, right? They eat wood, but they actually can't digest it themselves. They have unique bacteria that decomposes the wood fibers. As a result, the termites can absorb what they eat. That's just one example of a species that coexists with parasites.
I didn't know that. When I hear the word parasites, I feel creeped out almost instinctively. But now I know some of them aren't so bad to us. So the weird infectious disease that broke out at Onikafuchi Swamp has been exterminated by now. Well, I shouldn't say exterminated. I should say it's harmless now. I thought it was a crazy story at first, but now I feel like I just saw the trick behind some kind of crazy magic. It's interesting.
It is to us, but for the cult Oyashiro, this must be a very annoying theory.
Of course. If Takano's theory is correct, Oyashiro isn't a god. The punishment by that god, namely the curse of Oyashiro, that people have been so afraid of, will turn out to have been the symptoms of an infectious disease. I see. That's what dethroning God would mean. So, if the pathogen of this infectious disease was identified and announced to the public, the power of Oyashiro would be completely lost.
That's right. That's what they're afraid of. Mio was going to identify the pathogen, and for that, she was killed.
So that must mean she identified it.
Maybe she did, but she's gone and she didn't say anything about that in her scrapbooks. That's the only reason I can think of, though.
But it's the end of the 20th century. I'm sure the villagers have been examined by a lot of different medical institutions by now, right? I've never heard about anyone discovering a weird parasite like that.
I know. It's true the pathogen hasn't been found yet, but in fact there's evidence that there's some kind of parasite involved.
What? Really?
When a parasite enters a human body, that body's immune system cells, eosinophils and macrophages, try to kill the parasite. What? They secrete an antibody called immunoglobulin E, IgE. The most common way of checking if a person is infected by a pathogen is to look at the levels of this secretion. According to Takano's research, people from Hinamizawa have a very high level of IgE in their blood. That's not all. They also have obvious symptoms of being infected by parasites. They don't have any allergies. IgE stimulates mast cells, and they secrete histamines and serotonin as a result. This causes an allergic reaction. That allergic reaction isn't pleasant for humans, but it's necessary for the body to kill the pathogen. But the parasites don't want to be killed, of course, so they secrete substances that counteract IgE. As a result, IgE stops stimulating the receptors of the mast cells, which stop secreting the chemical compounds. As a result, the antigen-antibody reaction, namely the allergic reaction, doesn't occur. In other words, a human body that was affected by parasites secrete a high level of IgE, but it doesn't display allergic reactions. For your information, a body that's infected by a parasite doesn't suffer from hay fever. You get hay fever due to your body secreting a large amount of IgE because it's mistaken pollen for a parasitic invasion. As a result, a large amount of stimulants like histamine will be secreted, but your body can't contain the parasite that's attempting to kill. That's why your body continues to secrete IgE. As a result, the stimulants keep causing allergic reactions. That's how hay fever works. If you have a parasite in your body, it'll deactivate your IgE and suppress the secretion of stimulants. As a result, you don't have an allergic reaction. In other words, there's no hay fever in Hinamizawa, and you can cure your hay fever by moving here. So we haven't been able to identify the pathogen, but there's no question about its existence. Yes, that's right. If that's true, the scrapbooks are a big threat to the believers in Oyashiro. They don't identify the pathogen, but they clearly prove its existence. Yeah, it possesses a big enough danger to them to make them think it's worth killing Mio. This really is a scary secret. I believe it because you took the time to explain the details to me, but if you had skipped it and only told me the conclusion, it really would have sounded too crazy to believe. I told you, I couldn't believe it at first either, so I thought you definitely wouldn't. So what's important right now is that there's a dangerous organization acting in the shadows to try to cover up the truth, right? Yes, that's the most important thing. The fanatics who want to revive the sanctity of the god they worship. Reviving the majesty of their god means reviving the power of that god. The power of their god is the infectious disease. This infectious disease can't spread nationwide, unlike other infectious diseases. So from now on, I'm going to start calling it an endemic disease. That fits better since it only affects this region. Anyway, the endemic disease of the current day Hinamizawa is different from the one of the old times. It's been through a process of natural selection and it's harmless now. In other words, it doesn't do any harm to human bodies. That harm was interpreted as a curse. A curse is the power of a god, so a harmless endemic disease means the god is powerless. That means the only way to regain the majesty of the god is to revive the curse. In other words, they want to bring back the primitive endemic disease, namely the harmful strong version of the parasite. Wait a second, these fanatics want to deny the fact their god was actually a parasite, but you're saying that they're researching the parasite. You know, some parts of these things are kind of intersecting. I have to really mention this. Higurashi, which was it? It wasn't Daybreak. It was the one with the character with the pink hair and the wings on her head, and Une, the blue-haired girl. I forgot what it was called, but it's just extra Higurashi stuff, and I'm not gonna read those, which is why I feel like mentioning it here. That's contradictory, isn't it? I know it is. I think that this research is a secret that only the head of the fanatics is aware of. From the outside, they look like they're praising their god, but they actually understand its true identity, and they're trying to revive its supernatural power with their own hands. I get it. Oh my god, this is getting crazier and crazier. It didn't say it in the scrapbooks, but I'm suspicious of the clinic the manager owns. The Erie Clinic? Why? The facility is too big and fancy for Hinamizawa. Mio was working there. The manager might be a bacteriologist the Sonozaki family recruited. It can't be. I think Mio was murdered because she knew too much. The reason why the manager hasn't been murdered yet is because he's working for the fanatics in the first place. And he's researching the primitive form of the endemic disease. It's hard to believe the coach we know is capable of doing things like that. I'm sorry. He might be totally irrelevant. It's just a wild guess. But someone is doing the research somewhere, and that much is certain. And after 5 years, the research has finally been completed.
first case was the dismemberment murder by the... Okay, yeah. The whole event is veiled mystery. There's a theory that someone must have pushed them over the cliff, since the fence from the observation deck they fell was quite sturdy. What if one of them was infected by the primitive parasite? He or she might have become violent and pushed the other over the cliff. Everyone who knew Satoshi remembers how he changed at that time. He showed signs of being both aggressive and delirious. For the first time in 5 years, the victim experienced the maggot disease, described in the old scroll of the Furude Shrine. The reason behind that is unclear, and the stronger primitive parasite could have given its victims the delusion of maggots. This means they finally managed to duplicate the curse of Oyashiro after 5 years of research. Tomitake is the victim of the 5th year, and he died in an extremely abnormal way, and I'm the only one who understands his death because I experienced the same thing. He kept... Okay, yep. With all that explained, I finally understand the maggot disease I experienced in Ibaraki. I left Hinamizawa and made the parasite in me uncomfortable. As a result, it tried to resist, even though it wasn't very strong, and tried to make me homesick. But with my parents' divorce, I grew mentally imbalanced and I completely lost the power to resist for a period of time. The parasite was weak and harmless, but my mental instability allowed it to worsen my symptoms dramatically. As a result, I became crazy and violent. The delusion of Oyashiro appearing to me in the bathroom was probably the terminal phase of my delirium. I created the supernatural existence Oyashiro that I was instilled with when I was little, and I persuaded myself to go back to Hinamizawa based on that delusion. Some of the transcendents of Onigafuchi must have had the same experience. They must have passed their experiences down as an act of God. I remember once I saw on TV that indigenous people in South America use some sort of natural drug in order to have a mystical experience, ayahuasca, and they called a ritual to communicate with their gods. So, what the fanatics are trying to do is to spread the primitive parasites throughout Hinamizawa. I think that's their goal, but I don't think they'll do that without letting people know about it. Religions need ceremonies. So if they create what they wanted to create, and they decided to spread it, I think they'd name it the day of Oyashiro's revival or something, and they'd perform some kind of ceremony. It would be a celebration of the revival of Oyashiro. That's a bad thing, isn't it? I think you can say that because they're trying to spread a very dangerous pathogen. Hey, isn't that bioterrorism? Jeez, this is very bad. They used it on Tomitake and confirming they succeeded in duplicating the curse of Oyashiro, so the day of revival might be really soon. I don't know. It could happen in a few days, or it might take a year. This is way out of your league, Rena. This is a very serious conspiracy. There's nothing we alone can do to stop them. We have to report to the police. Do you think they'll believe us? It's their choice whether to believe us or not. No matter what, we have to tell them. Keiichi, telling Oishi about all this means telling him that I have the scrapbooks. Do you think that'd be a problem? Oishi came to me after Mio was murdered. When they killed Mio, they also found her scrapbooks were missing. They also know they met me at the library a few days ago. No way. You mean... Yes. Oishi could be one of them. It's possible that Oishi thinks I have the scrapbooks, and he might be trying to find out. He looked very suspicious, and it seemed to me he didn't really tell me everything he knew. He only told me things to make me suspicious of the Sonozaki family. He could have just been trying to look like he was on my side, and he's actually their minion. But the police are our only hope. Keiichi, you know a lot about the case of the 4th year, don't you? Sadako's aunt was murdered. I believe Satoshi did it, but the police fingered the drug addict as the murderer. What do you think about that? Some of the fanatics are with the police, and they fabricated the murderer? It's the same with the autopsy of the Shinto priest who claimed they died from disease and the inspection of the accident site where the Hojo couple died.
If the police are on their side, it opens the doors to too many perfect crimes. The three families have been maintaining the pressure on the police since the dam conflict. You heard from Michan they also have considerable power over many organizations in Okinomiya, right? Yeah, I have. But it's not only Mio who told me that. Many people did. They told me the Sonozaki family holds influence over the whole city. That's right. You can't necessarily trust the police around here. Rena, please! I want to make one thing clear before we go on. Are the Sonozaki family the masterminds behind all this? Does that mean Mion's involved too? Please tell me! I don't know if Michan or Rika are directly involved or not. All I can say is for sure the fanatics have the power to control the nerve centers of all the three families, including the most powerful family of all the Sonozakis. I'm not sure the fanatics are controlling the three families, or the three families are the fanatics themselves. As long as we're not serious about their involvement, it's better for us to be extra careful around them. Is that what you're saying? Yes. I'm not saying that I don't trust Michan. She's usually very reliable, and I'd ask for her help with any problem, but not this one. This one's a little different, and I don't know if you've seen it before, but although Michan jokes around when she's with us, she can be a very cold person when she's acting as the successor of the Sonozaki family. Plus, even if she wasn't involved, we'd put her in danger if we told her about this. If she was on our side, that'd be really encouraging. I think we should tell her. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't tell her until we confirm she's not one of them. Sure, it'd be great if we could pull her to our side, but what if we couldn't? So, how are we going to fight against them? Well, this is a battle we don't stand a chance of winning to begin with. That's why I didn't want to get you involved. Damn it! Takano left us a big parting gift, didn't she? But because of that, we know about the conspiracy. I believe this is her will. 2 kids challenging the mastermind who controls the village. This is gonna be tough. Ordinary methods won't work. But Keiichi, I'm glad to have you on my side. We can talk about and plan things together. Of course. I've always been on your side and I'm your friend. I know. Thank you. You're very reassuring. 2 heads are better than 1. Yeah, I agree. We can come up with a plan for how we're going to fight against them together. I skipped school today because I wanted to spend some time to read the scrapbooks again. I'm going to go to school again tomorrow, and I'm going to act normal. They might say something's wrong with me if I act different. You should do the same, Keiichi. Please be careful with Michan. She's sometimes very perceptive. Okay, I'll act normal as if I know nothing, but damn, I'm a bit scared. A huge conspiracy is right around the corner, and I might already be counting down to 0. It's hard to act normal knowing that. Wow. Hey, doesn't that kind of sound like something a pattern that we've been going through in the story? I don't think it's going to happen very soon. Like I said earlier, if they're really religious fanatics, they need a religious ceremony. They need the help of the whole village to hold something like that. I can't think of any other event other than Watanagashi. So you're saying we have time at least until the next Watanagashi festival? I can't promise. But I just can't think of any event other than that. I think we have a year at least, but I also feel like we don't because of how they killed Mio. I might not know, but there might be a bigger religious event than Watanagashi. It might not be long until that day. On the day of Oyashiro's revival, they're going to spread a dangerous parasite, and that day might just be around the corner. Reina, are you still on the phone? Wrap it up soon, it's getting late. My father stuck his head out of the living room telling me I need to hang up soon. I thought about telling him so many times. It's natural to think your parents will be on your side no matter what, but I know just how weak he can get, so I couldn't tell him. I don't think he'd believe me anyway, even if I told him. He'd just tell me to call the police. It's better that I don't tell him. They might get close to my father to get to me. If he didn't know anything about anything, including the scrapbooks, there'd be nothing to squeeze out of him to begin with. I'm sorry, Keiichi, I have to go now. It's getting late. I'll see you at school. Okay, see you tomorrow. Be careful, okay? You're not an outsider anymore. Yeah, I'll be careful. I remember the suspicious men in the white van, and it felt a chill run through my spine. They looked like villagers, but they weren't. They had the village accent, but they were just pretending. The more I thought about it, the more suspicious they came. It let me know that Rena and I aren't safe. If Rena's right, they're just suspicious of her, and they're not sure she has the scrapbooks or not. But it's still creepy. Rena probably experienced the same creepiness I felt when I saw the van several times up until now. She must sense the danger more than I do. However, the fact that they weren't attacking us and they were merely observing us was disturbing. If they attacked her, she could have done something like going to the police. But all they're going to do is watch her from a distance and she can't do anything about it.
She can't talk to anybody about it. She probably just wants to stay in her house all day, but if she acted different, they might take it as proof that she has a scrapbook. We had to think about how to fight against them without making it obvious. I told myself there's no going back, and I put the phone down. Uh-oh. That's not good. Sorry, there's something in my nose. I feel a little whatever. The next day, Rena would come to school, acting normal like she normally said she would. She talked with Mion as cheerfully as she always did, and it made me wonder if the story she told me last night was a complete fabrication. What the hell? Oops. No! Oh my god. That's because the story really was too ridiculously crazy to believe. This village has a very weird and rare endemic disease, and there are religious fanatics who want to use the disease to revive their weird cult. And they've been researching the pathogen of the endemic disease so they can spread it throughout the village. I was deeply influenced by Rena last night, and I believed everything she said. But thinking about it with a cool mind under the sunlight, it sounds too crazy to be true. The story Rena told me is based on Takano's crazy hand-me-down ideas. It's based entirely on her theories, which, though very feasible, have no evidence whatsoever. The fact that Takano was murdered lends credit to the story, I'll give you that, but... I looked at Mion. She was fooling around with Rena. It's hard to believe she's involved with some crazy conspiracy. Hey, are you listening, Kei-chan? What? Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying any attention. Wake up, sleepyhead. You didn't get enough sleep or your brain stops working. Mio made fun of me for reacting too slowly. It's almost impossible not to trust this bubbly, cheerful girl. I trust Mion. I trust my friends. I know she'd never have a hand in a crazy conspiracy like that. If she knew about it, she wouldn't be able to act this cheerfully. Rena told me not to tell Mion because she might be one of them. But it might be worth telling her without letting Rena know. Of course, there's at least a 1% chance if the conspiracy is true and Mion's 1% of them, I might be doomed. But if I had to choose between believing the crazy theory and trusting my friends, my answer would be obvious. I know my friend Mion isn't part of any conspiracy. She'd never be involved with something like that. Even if the conspiracy exists, I'm sure Mion will be on our side. So whether or not it's true, it must be worth telling Mion about it. What's going on, Kei-chan? Why'd you call me out here? You told me not to tell anybody. You're not gonna extract money from me, are you? Is that the first thing you think of when you're called out to the gymnasium storeroom? Oh, I know. You want to give me a love letter, don't you? People usually use the shoe locker for that, you know? We don't really do that in the city. A lot of the guys hand over their love letters in person. Really? So, wait, you're, Are you kidding me? That's not why I called you here. I have to talk to you about something very important. I want you to listen without making fun of me. What is it? Do you know that there are people who want to revive the cult of Oyashiro? Huh? What? What are you talking about? This, of course, is just my way of getting a feel for the situation. I wanted to see how she was going to react by going straight to the point. But Mio really did look puzzled. People wouldn't normally react like this if somebody pointed out their secrets out of the blue. They always panicked, if only just a little. Either Mio was a brilliant actress, or she really didn't have anything to do with the idea of reviving Oyashiro. I decided to tell her everything. Mio, your family, the Sonozaki family, has a lot of influence in this region, including Hinamizawa, right? Do you think there's a possibility they're going to revive the cult of Oyashiro behind the scenes? Revive? Why? Well, you know, people today don't worship Oyashiro like people in the old days did, so people like the fundamentalists might try to make people worship Oyashiro in the same way as the people Onigafuchi. What? Wait a second, I have no idea what you're talking about. Are you sure? You really have no idea what I'm talking about? Of course I don't! It sounds like one of those popular novels that sold 5 million copies over in America. Mia's reaction was very natural. It seemed impossible that she was pretending she didn't know anything about it. But regardless, I continued. Well, there are people like that in this village for real. Do you know anything about them? You're saying that these people want to make us worship Oyashiro like the people at Onigafuchi did. What good would that do? You know, I think it means a lot to the people who really believe. But think about it, Kei-chan. Who'd be happy to live under those strict ancient rules? In this day and age, it's almost impossible to live without leaving the village. But for example, think about Rika. All the old people said she's the reincarnation of Oyashiro, right? Those people might claim to be religious fanatics and... Are you talking about old man Kimiyoshi? Well, I know he's a deeply religious man for sure, but he isn't a fanatic. Believe me, there really are people who are trying to revive the cult of Oyashiro. Okay, I'll believe you for now because I want to hear the rest. Go on! They found out the curse of Oyashiro was just an endemic disease unique to this village, so now they're researching the pathogen. Where? First of all, what's an endemic disease? What's a pathogen? They sound gross. I was getting confused. I didn't know I was talking about myself anymore. I was deeply influenced by Rena last night and believed everything she said, but having it said all out loud, I started to realize how impossible the story sounded. What's going on with you? Did Mio tell you all this? How did you know? She's infamous for this kind of thing. She's an occult maniac. She always makes up crazy stories. A few people have gotten badly taken in by her before. She told me some of her stories once, and I remember they were actually very interesting. Is that true? I think you've heard about this once or twice before, but this village had a unique culture back in the old days. They did a lot of oppressive things like having very strict rules, very strict punishments, and a bunch of other cruel traditions. And they're well known amongst occult fanatics. Mio was one of them. So the story I heard about the weird parasite that controls the village was... What? Parasite? Is that the new story she came up with? What do you mean, new story? I told you! Mio is a cult maniac. She studies the weird legends surrounding Onigafuchi and enjoys making up hypotheses, theories, and wild stories about them. She's created a lot of different ones from aside the theory that the parasites are controlling the village. One I heard an awful while back was about UFOs. That one was interesting since it connected a lot of different dots. The story was about a UFO that crashed into Onigafuchi Swamp long ago. The alien was in the UFO and the villagers had a battle or something like that. It was one of those sci-fi B horror movies. The one where Sadako heard was a theory about creatures from the bottom of the ocean, a movement in the Earth's crust opened a connection between the underwater world and Onigafuchi, and the princess of the underworld fell in love with a young man in the village. It was like a sci-fi version of Romeo and Juliet. Oh man. Okay. This one, I'm not going to spoil it, but something about this one sounds like an extra. This is one of the... It sounds like something that parallels or is from one of the extra Higurashi arcs, which you probably only find in the DS or others like Higurashi Matsuri or something like that, which I haven't read. I've heard about them, I've done some research on them, but if anyone who's read or gone further outside the main 8, you can tell me. I don't know. Somebody would probably know more about it than me. I believe Best Sonozaki on YouTube talks a bit about like the extra Higurashi arc. I don't really have any interest past like anything past the main 8. I actually don't really care for Psycho Kuroshi. And again, that's probably because of the anime that made me not care. So maybe one day I will seriously consider reading Psycho Kuroshi. Yeah, you know, the dice killing arc. Anyway. The story about the parasites that you heard must be a new one. I hope she makes them all into a book one day. Mia began laughing so hard she had to hold her stomach. As I looked at her laughing like that, I realized I fell for something that ridiculous. At the point it was obvious. I've been completely taken in. I'm sorry, Mio, but please answer my questions. First, do the fanatics who are trying to revive this cult of Oyashiro exist? No, they don't. I mean, it's totally the opposite. The 3 families have agreed to open Hinamizawa to outsiders in order to make this village thrive. I'm not supposed to tell anybody about this, but there's a project to build a new highway by the end of the 20th century. The Sonozaki family is promoting its construction without informing the villagers. If all goes well, this whole area will flourish. My grandma's betting she'll make a fortune when it causes land prices in the region to skyrocket. Well, most of the work will happen in the 21st century, so I'll likely end up taking over the project. So, you don't think there are people who hate outsiders? I told you! There's no such people! What makes you think we want to make this village more inconvenient than it already is? In fact, we've already started selling the land to the village just to rich people who want to build country residences here. Your house is the first lot we sold, Kei-chan. Didn't the villagers welcome you? The three families are trying to do everything they can to stop young people from leaving the village. There was nothing vague about what Mion had said. Her story makes a lot more sense than Takano's delusional theories. And so, Mion's words woke me up from that delusion. See, Mio's theories aren't really that interesting after all. So, what about this? I heard that the residents of Hinamizawa have extraordinary high levels of something in their blood, and it proves they're infected by parasites. Really? How did Mio figure that out? Takano's a nurse, I'm sure she can do that. And you think anyone would give her blood samples for no reason? Because I sure don't. Even if she could get blood samples somehow, where would she examine them? How many blood samples do you think she examined all by herself? Mio was right. I couldn't believe I thought Takano could do all that just because she was a nurse. It struck me hard to believe that she got that many blood samples and did a high-level examination like that without any help. When I thought about it rationally, I shouldn't have believed such a ridiculous story so easily. I heard that people here don't get any hay fever, which is proof of their being infected by the parasite. Only people in cities get hay fever. I heard it has something to do with fuel emissions. Kei-chan, you're talking about Hinamizawa. I mean, even people in Okinomiya don't get hay fever, I think. Well, what about this? I heard the Sonozaki family has a death squad and they kidnapped the grandson of the government minister once. That sounds cool. I wish I had a squad like that. Even I was sounding ridiculous, but I believed all of it last night. I believed it because Rena looked very serious. It's true the grandson of the minister was found in Takasudo. We didn't do it. We just acted as if we did. What do you mean? Please explain. Okay, the Onikafuji Guardians protested violently during the dam conflict. They did something close to terrorism as well, but there are people who use the resistance movement for their own benefits. They use the name of Onikafuji Guardians to rob people of money and valuables. The Onikafuji Guardians were a very aggressive force at that time. There's a high possibility that some people thought that they could use the name to extort money. So that can also be the case with certain other movements, depending. The kidnapping case is one of those incidents. The kidnappers felt they could stifle the police investigation by acting like they were the Onikafuji Guardians. They kidnapped the boy and demanded a ransom. To tell you the truth, the members of the Onikafuji Guardians were all very surprised. They were actually impressed those guys actually pulled it off. I remember they even said to give them a reward. But wait a second, so the Onikafuji Guardians had nothing to do with the kidnapping? No, not at all. Mion said it firmly. It was simple and clear, which left no room for suspicion. And thinking about it, it's nothing surprising. Kidnapping the ransom of the minister and negotiating with him in person is a huge deal. The Onikafuji Guardians were a very aggressive group, but this operation wasn't so easy that it could be carried out by any normal residents of Hinamizawa. It was obviously the work of professional criminals without a doubt. Like I said earlier, the Sonozaki family acted as if they were the masterminds of the kidnapping case. What do you mean by that? This is a secret precept of the Sonozaki family. You can't tell anybody about this, okay? When an incident like this happens, we traditionally act as if we're responsible about it. It's a tradition of bluffing. Bluffing? Really? Mikashi. Yeah! It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it works out in our favor. It can be a criminal incident, the weather, or even lottery numbers. We act as if it happened because the Sonozaki family wanted it to happen. It starts to sound like we're a very powerful organization, doesn't it? That's the point. This is the secret strategy that the Sonozaki family heads know about. This strategy is meant to make us look bigger and stronger than we actually are. Wow. So, what about the plan they had during the dam conflict, the one to attack the Ministry of Construction? Was that true? I heard they obtained weapons and even trained for it. That was the spin we put on it. There's no way we could actually carry out a crazy plan like that. Our real goal was to make people believe that we were capable of doing things like that so that we could exact pressure on the government. That's all. They obtained weapons and went through training just so that they could exact pressure. They had no intention of actually carrying out the plan. The Sonozaki family was just bluffing. That makes sense. Of course it did. It's impossible to attack the Ministry of Construction. Even if they did it, it wouldn't solve the problem. All I had to do was use common sense. Even if they did, they would have been crushed within seconds by the huge number of policemen. Why didn't I think that? You know, when I first watched the anime, I never really thought the Sonozaki family were behind it. I didn't even notice it was a red herring this whole time. Like, the only time I started noticing was in the visual novels, where they explicitly talk about it. Like, I don't remember the anime really explain, like, the Sonozakis, other than, like, Shion having, like, a suspicion. Because it's just, like, yeah, there was, like, Neon who, like, did those things and stuff. But that doesn't explain Tatarigoroshi, and it doesn't explain Onikakushi. I mean, like, okay, you kind of get the feeling maybe, but, like, I don't know. It's just that I never got that feeling when I first watched it. What about the weapons and training? As for the weapons, no comment. But we did go through training. We need to do that in order to make the bluff look real. We gathered some younger men from my father's office and appointed Kasai as the leader of the group. We went to the desert in Texas and played war games with some instructors and went sightseeing in San Francisco afterwards. So, I couldn't think of anything else. It was obvious now. Rena and I both, we were completely fooled by the scrapbooks of Takano's delusion. Rena was so serious about it, so I believed her. But if you examined it closely, there were so many inconsistencies. I couldn't believe Rena took a delusion like that so seriously. I knew the reason why, though. She was still in a state of shock after being caught with the corpses that day. She was mentally unstable. She came across this tall tale, and she believed it. Rena's a smart girl. She wouldn't have taken it seriously if she was stable. Plus, another thing happened to wake me up from the delusion. The white band I saw yesterday came up to school during lunch break. The 4 men in work uniforms I saw were there too. I said thank you to Mio and followed them. The man who talked to me yesterday knocked on the door of the teacher's office. Hello, I'm from the Okanogi Gardeners. Oh, thank you for coming. It's very hot today, isn't it? It sure is. By the way, you look very beautiful as always today. Oh, well, thank you. You can start whenever you're ready. Yes, we'll start right away. My account manager told me to give this to you. The quote in the invoice, I see. The date is left blank on both of them. Well, there shouldn't be any problem. Thank you so much. Alright, we'll start right away. The man was talking to Chie with a big smile. What are you doing here, Maibara? Oh, principal. Who is that guy? Oops, it's the principal. I should use a lower voice. The principal pointed his finger at the window. When I looked out, I saw the noise of the engine starting. And sorry, my voice is kind of shot. Oops, my bad. I know it seems like I haven't been super invested in the reading. It's because my voice is a little shot. Otherwise, I probably would have read the scene between Neon and Keiichi better. Anyway, the noise was coming from the engine of the motorized lawnmower. I saw a young man in work uniforms taking another lawnmower, some brooms, and a ladder out of the van. They're gardeners. We haven't taken care of the grass around the fence and the trees for a long time. I wanted to clean them up before summer. Mr. Principal, thank you for giving us a call. Oops, I didn't notice the principal was supposed to be talking. The man noticed the principal, took off his hat and bowed. No need, I trust your work. Please take care of things. I think we can finish it today. We might make a lot of noise, though. Each worker took one of the tools and walked toward the fence where the grass was growing. The engine of the lawnmower was very loud, and the kids who were playing in the schoolyard looked at it curiously. Hey! It's dangerous out there! Go back to your classroom! It was Chie. She handed an envelope with the documents to the principal. It said Okanogi Gardeners in green and envelope. Sorry. Principal, please sign the invoice and drop it off at their office next time you go to the town hall. Of course, will do. Chie, did they come here yesterday? Yes, they came here to look at the grass late in the afternoon. They told me they got lost on the way back because they tried to take a shortcut. This village has a lot of small roads branching off everywhere, and they can be very confusing. I remember when I first came here, Chie started talking about when she got lost, and they laughed together. And there was never anything suspicious to begin with. I thought they were suspicious yesterday because of what Rena had told me. At first I thought it wasn't unusual to see a white van, but then right after I heard a creepy story, I saw the white van parked on the road and I got scared. The gardeners weren't familiar with the roads of Hinamizawa and they got lost trying to take a shortcut on their way back, that's all. I had it totally twisted around. I believe that fake-sounding story. I believe the Sonozaki family was working behind the scenes and I fabricated the existence of a group of fanatical believers in my head. Worse, I doubted Mion. Damn it! I'm such a fool! She's my friend! We took each other's hands that day, saying that we were a family made of friends and that friends were friends no matter what! I said that, but then I doubted my friend. I'm so stupid! Anyway, Rena was the problem. She also needed to wake up from this crazy delusion. I had to hurry and wake her up. Rena seemed like she had no mind to listen to anybody else. She truly believes the Sonozaki family are the masterminds of a large-scale conspiracy. And now we're going to see this scene from Rena's perspective. I remembered the plate number of the white van, and I also remember their faces. Without a doubt, this is one of the vans that have been following me. So far, I confirmed 3 or 4 cars have been following me. I could especially recall this white van because it followed me around the longest of all. The people who were in the other cars must have been lookouts, and the ones in this van must have been tasked with direct contact, like kidnapping or assassination. The lookouts secure the surroundings, and the one in this van attacked the target. That's a common maneuver involved both kidnapping and assassinations. The scrapbook said that too. If so, I'd better watch out because it was them, not the lookouts who came to the school premises. I don't think they'll attack me while I'm in school. They're in the early stage of the covert operation now, hiding their fangs and claws until the last stage of their horrifying scheme. That's why they won't take action in the school where people are watching. But it looked like they were talking with Chie in a very friendly way. I could only hear bits and pieces of their conversation, but it sounded very suspicious. I tried to remember the chatter and the movements of their mouths. I played my memory of it like a videotape in my mind. Hello! Oh, thank you for coming. It's very hot today, isn't it? It sure is. Today? Thank you. Well, you can start whenever you're ready. Yes, we'll start right away. My account manager told me to give this to you. And I see. It is blank. Well, there shouldn't be any problem. Thank you so much. Alright, well, I used the information. I had to guess what was going on, and I played the video again and again in my mind, and also paused it and played it in slow motion again to check many times. And something unbelievably horrifying started to emerge. There's no doubt they're acquainted with Chie, but I've never seen them visit the school before. It's hard to believe that Chie is in their contact. There's no doubt they're the death squad under the direct control of the Sonozaki family. They have the local accent, which proves they're chosen from the Sonozaki corps. The death squad was talking with Chie. They know each other. What's their relationship? Who is Chie anyway? During the dam conflict, Hinamizawa's school was closed and it was merged with the one in Okinomiya. But the Onikafuchi Gardens didn't accept that, and they made a part of the forestry service building into the school. But needless to say, the school they made didn't have a teacher. It was only going to be a token form of resistance, but a teacher who had a strong passion for education felt sorry for the children and she came to work there. That was Rumiko Chie. It was obviously strange. Teachers are government employees. They normally belong to their prefectures. As long as they lie low and don't cause trouble, they don't get fired and they don't get demoted. They can work up to the official retirement age, and they're guaranteed to get a fixed retirement fund. She was one of those government employees, and she defied the Board of Education and came to work at Hinamizawa. The villagers also admire her as a teacher of passion. I heard that Ono Sonozaki herself successfully negotiated with the Board of Education that suspended Chie for dividing their orders. It was easy to get an answer from this by connecting the dots. Chie was recruited by Sonozaki Oryo as a teacher to work at the school of the Onikafuchi Gardens had created. In other words, she was already working for Sonozaki Oryo before she came here. As for the principal, he was the principal in the school in Hinamizawa from the beginning. He's a respected person in this region, and he's been closely associated with the 3 families for a long time. So that means this school has been under the control of the Sonozaki family all along. That's why Chie is acquainted with the death squad. It makes sense now. Chie confirmed that I came to school today and made a phone call. And called them here? I don't want to know why she called them here. If she called them just to monitor me, they wait near the gate until the class is over. But they came onto the school premises. Why? Stop pretending to be a fool, Rugu Rena. Do you think nothing will happen to you if you pretend not to notice it? Think hard and calm down, Rugu Rena.
What will they try to do to me today in school? In school? How are they going to do anything with my classmates and friends around me? It's easy. Chie will tell me to come to the teacher's office during the last class of the day. What about my club mates? That's easy too. Chie can easily make them go home early using her authority as a teacher. She can make up any reason she wants. Maybe the classroom's going to have carpentry done at work so they can't stay in school. It sure is. Today? Well, thank you. You can start whenever you're ready. See? There's no doubt. They clearly said they're ready to do it today. And what else? Yes, we'll start right away. My account manager told me to give this to you. This and this, I see. This is left blank on. Well, there shouldn't be any problem. Thank you so much. I see. They gave Chie an envelope with some documents in it. That blank is an eerie phrase. Was my name supposed to be in the blank? Why is it left blank? What does that mean? I told you, Ruku Rena. Do you still think nothing will happen to you? Pretend not to notice it. Stop that! So, what must it mean? Is it an order from a higher up? It says to make Ruku Rena become blank. I took a peek from the shadows and saw the principal taking documents out of the envelope. He started reading them. He looked stern. He looked very serious. I wish I could take a peek at the documents, but I was too far away. I kept looking at him just to see if he'd react at all, and the envelope caught my eye. The envelope said Okanogi Gardeners and had some numbers that looked like a phone number. Fortunately, I have good eyesight, and I memorized the number. If they're a death squad, the gardening company must be a camouflage occupation. It probably doesn't even exist. I wanted to find out, and I looked for a phone. There's only one phone, and it's the teacher's office. Fortunately, the teachers were chatting in the hallway and looking at the gardeners. It was now or never. I made sure nobody was watching me go to the teacher's office. I rushed in and grabbed the phone on the principal's desk. I went over the phone number in my head and dialed it up. I'm glad they have a touch-tone phone. It would have been difficult if it was rotary dial. If somebody answered, I'd only have to ask, is this the Okanogi Gardeners? I wait for the answer before hanging up. It should be easy. It connected. The number you dialed is... I felt a cold chill run through my body at the bottom of my feet. Wait, don't make a quick judgment. I might have remembered the number wrong. No, I know I remembered it right. It was an easy number to remember. It's impossible to remember it wrong. Then did I dial it wrong? I put the phone down and started over, and this time I dialed the number more slowly. The teachers might be coming back in that situation. It was risky to do anything slowly, but I need to make absolutely sure. The number you dialed is... It's the same. There's no doubt. The company Okanogi Gardeners doesn't exist. It's just a camouflage occupation for the Sonosaki family's death squad. Please make sure the number you dialed is correct. The number you dialed is... I was too stunned to put down the receiver. The announcement kept running over and over again. The voice was cold and creepy. I hung the phone and rushed out of the teacher's office. I ran to the bathroom and attempted to cool down my head. Calm down, Rena. Calm down, Ruku Rena. Stay cool. Rena, I wasn't safe anymore. If I stayed here, I might be erased even in the open. They'd erase me? Why? They aren't certain that I have the scrapbooks. I told Keiichi where I hid the scrapbooks. Yesterday, I told them I hid them in my hideout, the garbage dump. Is Keiichi in cahoots with the Sonozaki family? I paused. My head was a pot that was cooking some dubious stew. There was only soup in my brain. I cut the clues, information, and facts just like I cut vegetables and threw them into the pot. Some of them were floating on the surface and others were at the bottom. They were being cooked in a boiling soup. No, it can't be. Keiichi's on my side. He's the only one who's on my side. He held out his hand to me at the trash piles. There was no lie in that hand. When he grabbed my wrist, I felt nothing but his strong, pure heart. He promised he'd be on my side. I shouldn't doubt Keiichi. He's the only one I should trust. He's the only one who's on my side right now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Keiichi. I was about to doubt you. I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. I said it out loud on purpose, full of regret that I doubted Keiichi, the only one who's on my side. Now that I think about it, whether I had the scrapbooks or not might not matter to them. Erase anyone who's suspicious. That's the safest way. Does that mean they're in a hurry? The day of Oyashiro's arrival must be around the corner. That's why they're trying to get rid of any small fish bones that are stuck in the throat by any means before it's too late. We don't need her anymore. Just erase her if you're worried so much. I could easily picture Sonozaki Oreo saying that. Picture? No, she did say that! That's why they're here today! What should I do? What should I do? Should I wait until school's over? I was like a fish in a pond. No matter how many times I escaped from the net, I was in the pond. They owned the pond. I didn't stand a chance. Then what should I do now? I couldn't keep escaping from the net. I should get out of the pond. I didn't know how to fight them. I didn't know who's on my side, and I was about to give in to despair. For now, I have to think about how to survive this, so I at least have time to think about how to fight against them. I have to get out of this pond. When I was about to leave the bathroom, one of my classmates came in. I pretended to be sick and talked to the girl while leaning on the wall. I don't feel good. I think it's better I go home. Can you tell Chie I left school early? I shouldn't let Chie know that I'm leaving school early if I'm trying to run away from them. But if I didn't, they might think I ran away without cause. That might lead them to chase after me without mercy. If that happens, I don't stand a chance. They're planning to capture me after school's over, but I happened to feel sick and left school early. If they took it that way, they wouldn't think that I noticed the noose tightening around me. I was about to go back to the classroom to get my bag, but I changed my mind and turned around. I didn't need my bag anymore. I realized nobody was watching me, so I stopped pretending to be sick and started running. Chie, take a look at this. Oops, it's the principal. Take a look. Is something wrong with the documents? Yes, the date on the quote and the invoice are left blank. They're supposed to put today's date here. Oh, they wanted to leave them blank. They said they couldn't put the same date on the quote and the invoice. They're told to leave them blank by the general affairs. Okay then. And the number on the phone and the invoice is different from the envelope. Do you know which is the correct one? Oh, I didn't notice that. Hello, excuse me. Yes? What's the matter? The phone number on the invoice is different from the one on the envelope, which is correct. Oh! It's the one on the invoice. I used the old envelope we used at our former office. I'm sorry about that. I told our part-timer to add a stamp with a new phone number, but I guess she forgot. I apologize for the confusion. Can you just erase the number? Well, there you go. The real answer. Sorry I'm not super invested. It's just that I know that Rena is just like kind of messed up at some parts. And it's a little... I'm not really invested in whatever she's thinking that is the right answer. And when I already know an answer is wrong, I kind of have a harder time getting invested. Especially when I know what she actually thinks, which about what's actually going on, and then it makes me very not as invested. So, yeah. Lunch takeout list 3, the next tip. The danger of a culture-bound syndrome lies in the fact that it can easily trigger delusional misidentification syndrome. That is to say, in the current case, every time the patient sees something trivial, she tries to interpret it as a curse. It is believed the result of the accumulation of these events in an understandable form, a delusional system is created, ultimately leading to paranoia. Furthermore, the patient is also exhibiting slight signs of a personality disorder. Of course, it's at a very mild level, and it's not causing any hindrance whatsoever to the patient's daily life. It's common for even healthy individuals to have primary delusions in their daily lives, but they usually ignore it automatically without recognition, since those delusions are nonsensical. However, there are cases where these delusions accumulate despite being incomprehensible. It largely depends on the particular characteristics of the individual. It's believed that the patient shows relatively strong characteristics in this area. I believe you're very much aware that primary delusions are categorized into 3 different kinds. Delusional mood is the feeling of impending crisis without basis. Delusional intuition is the feeling of a sense of duty or goal without basis. Delusional perception is a feeling of baseless cause against a baseless target. In the patient's case, it's believed that these incomprehensible delusions accumulated acted out simultaneously with this culture-bound syndrome, which triggered a delusional misidentification syndrome. It ultimately caused the incomprehensible delusions to become understandable by interpreting them as a curse. The comprehensible delusional system induces understandable secondary delusions, further strengthening the patient's delusional system with the passage of time. The delusional parasitosis
mentioned earlier can be considered a secondary delusion. A common factor of all the cases of paranoia is still, even after an outbreak, they can still appear perfectly normal with no changes in their personalities. The patients are unaware of their own ailments due to their personal interpretation of their delusional system. There are many cases where patients arm themselves logically, making it extremely difficult for a third party to point out that they're having a delusion. Furthermore, although it may depend on the tendency of the delusions, there are also cases where a persecutory delusion turns into a pursuit delusion or a conspiracy delusion, resulting in the patient creating an imaginary enemy and taking up antisocial behavior. Conspiracy. For example, there are cases where believers of a religious cult were deeply influenced by the cult founders' paranoid visions, which shifted the group into a conspiracy delusion that made them conduct antisocial behavior in the name of self-defense. Although no such cases have been reported in Japan yet, it could very well happen in the near future. Fortunately, the patient hasn't reached that serious condition as of now. With proper treatment, she should be able to make a full recovery. Please make sure that her father also understands this is not an unusual case, but something caused by the accumulation of the number of innocent factors that anyone could have. The patient can be treated only by deepening her bond with her father. As long as she has that bond, she can certainly be treated. For the reasons above, if the patient is to return to her home village, I strongly recommend the patient continue to receive guidance from specialized medical institutions. Please excuse me for writing such a long letter. Thank you for reading this until the very end. Alright. And we should be done there. Thanks. Good night.